I'm Angie, and you're watching Dante's Vaccination.
Now, listen, there are some, and a lot has been written too about this. Even people over in Japan saying they would love to see you fight the monster, Naoya Inoue, who's considered pound for pound one of the best fighters in the world. What do you think?
I believe, once again, yeah. See, if I break down, I'm not being biased. If a person, I'm like, oh, he's good. But I have to say this: if I break down that fight between me and him before it happens, it most likely won't happen until they work on what I'm about to say. But I'm not going to say it. I see me wiping him out clean. He's too small for me. He's too short. His reach isn't there. I'm not going to sit there for those power shots all the time. It's just a lot that I can just analyze off of him. He's good. Don't get me wrong. I'm not discrediting him, taking anything away from him. I took my hat off, but he's not better than me. I believe the same thing that happens in Inoue will happen to him.
So the old media curse continues. Dante's Boxing Nation, what's going on, guys? So some really, really bad news for old media, but some really, really good news for boxing fans. I mean, real boxing fans. And I'll explain why it's bad news for old media in a minute. But apparently, according to ESPN, Cool Boy Stephen Fulton and Naoya Inoue is reportedly in talks to potentially happen next year in Japan. Inoue just vacated all of his belts at the bantamweight division and will be challenging Stephen Fulton for his WBC and WBO belts at the super bantamweight division. Now, first off, guys, you know this news is true. You know the news is true that they're talking because ESPN is reporting it, and this is not something that ESPN would want to report because ESPN, like the rest of old media, they never wanted this fight. So you have to understand how old media works, guys. Old media, they usually look for a fighter that's obviously on the hope list and is in a division that has the least resistance. And 95% of the time, the most resistance comes from Black American fighters. So when old media and the rest of the racist fans, when they find a fighter that is in a division where there are no Black American threats, they feel like squatters in a vacant house. Man, we can live here for as long as we want. Ain't nobody coming back. We can live in this house for as long as we want, completely rent-free. And then soon as old media finds this fighter in that vacant division where no real competition is there, they immediately call him the best fighter in the world over everyone. They don't care who he fights. They don't care how weak the opposition is. The only thing they care about is him continuing to win because they look at it like this. He can't lose to any Black fighters because there's no Black fighters in his division. That means we can continue to mislead the public even longer. That is, until a fighter like Inoue decides to leave that vacant house and moves to a much more dangerous neighborhood where you're going to actually have to fight to stay in that house. When I talk about old media loving when they have a fighter that moves to a weak division, this is exactly what happened with Canelo Alvarez. When Canelo moved up to 168 and all of the champions were white/Eastern European fighters, there were no Black challenges. There was no more Charlos. There was no more Andrades, right? So old media felt this is the perfect time to promote Canelo as the best fighter in the world. He has no more Andrade Charlo threats, right? He's got the division all to himself. So let's start telling people that he is the Michael Jordan of the sport. Number one, the best fighter in the world. As soon as they did that, Canelo Alvarez was forced to take on a tough challenge in Bivol, and it was all downhill from there. Old media never wanted Canelo to fight Andrade, Charlo, David Benavidez. When Canelo used to be with DAZN every time Chris Mannix interviewed him. You go back and you watch those post-fight interviews. Chris Mannix would never mention Andre's name or Charlo's name as an opponent for Canelo, even though they were all champions in the same weight class and Andre fought on the zone. And that right there is called the Hope Insurance. That's the insurance that they give these fighters. It covers everything. It protects you from dangerous fighters, dangerous black fighters. So Canelo, he had that vacant house all to himself at 168 until other squatters start knocking on the door. Fighters start moving up to 168. David Benavidez became his mandatory. And then promoters forced him to fight better competition like Bivol. And this is where old media's curse normally comes in. What is the old media curse? Guys, if you have noticed, almost every single time old media put a fighter from the Hope list on top of the pound for pound list that did not deserve to be in that position, they put him right over Terrence Crawford. They put him over Errol Spence. They put him over everyone and tells the world, I know you don't know who this guy is, but we are telling you right now, this guy is the best boxer in the world, right? And they spread the propaganda like a virus. Next thing you know, even boxers that never even heard of this guy, but they heard of him on ESPN, when ESPN puts their list up, or when some boxing writer puts up his pound for pound list, that's how they found out who he was. And you keep saying something over and over and over again, some people will actually either believe it or know it's not true, but just want to believe it because it fits their agenda. But you know what happens, guys? Every single time old media puts one of these fighters on the top of the pound for pound list, as soon as they put him up there, they usually end up losing shortly after. This happened to Chocolatito Gonzalez. This happened to Sergey Kovalev. This happened to Canelo Alvarez. This happened to Nonito Donaire, who was never number one, but they had him number two right behind his countryman Manny Pacquiao. This was when Floyd Mayweather was on a hiatus, so he wasn't on the list. All of these fighters lost as soon as old media started to hype them up as the best fighter in the world. And I truly believe the exact same thing is about to happen to Inoue. I don't make predictions too often unless I'm really, really comfortable with who I think is going to win. And this is one of those fights that makes me extremely comfortable with my decision. Inoue does not have defense. Inoue has a great offense. But a great offense doesn't really mean too much if you don't have a great defense to go with it, especially when you're moving up in weight and fighting much better fighters. I've said this before, and I'm going to keep saying it. Inoue, in his first fight with Nonito Donaire, keep in mind, Donaire is 40 years old. But it's not just the fact that he's 40 years old. It's the fact that he's 40 years old and Donaire himself he's never been a boxer, right? And he was in there outboxing Inoue in the first fight they had. But when you look at the dichotomy between Guillermo Rigondeaux and Inoue, look at what Rigo did to a much younger in his prime Nonito Donaire, a fighter at the time who was considered pound for pound number 2, the best fighter in the world. And Rigo completely dominated him while Donaire was the much bigger man. But Inoue struggled against the 40-year-old Nonito Donaire. Donaire is not a boxer. Fulton is a boxer. But not only is he a boxer, he's a complete fighter. Meaning Fulton is like the majority of Black American athletic fighters. He can pretty much do it all. He can fight on the inside. He can fight on the outside. He can fight as a counterpuncher. He can fight as a boxer. He has a good jab. He's a good body puncher. He can take a punch. And on top of all of that, he has a great defense. See, to be successful when you're moving up in weight, your defense has to be better than everything else you do. Why do you think Floyd Mayweather was able to move up 5 weight classes fighting guys that were all 15 to 20 pounds bigger than him while he was in his late 30s? Because he was so intelligent. His reflexes and his defense combined, right? But you look at Donaire, you look at Roman Gonzalez, they both got knocked out when they moved up in weight. They were fighting bigger guys. They did not have the defense to be fighting against bigger guys. And I don't think Inoue has the defense either. I think he will meet the exact same fate that they met. I look forward to seeing this fight. It's going to be a big one. It's going to be a really, really big one. I'm telling you, old media, they never wanted this fight to happen. I'm telling you, this is some of the worst news for old media and the rest of the racist fans. They was hoping that Inoue would stay at 118 forever and never have to fight a real challenge, never have to take on a real challenge. In fact, that's exactly what they're doing with Bam Bam Rodriguez. Bam Bam Rodriguez was in the same division that Chocolatito Gonzalez and Francisco Estrada were in. Bam Bam Rodriguez, he could have really, really took his career to the next level if he would have challenged one of those guys. But instead, he decided to move down in weight and fight against champions that no one has ever heard of, right? So credit goes to Inoue. Win, lose, or draw, credit definitely goes to Inoue. You know, I can tell he's really believed what everyone has been saying, that he is pound for pound better than Terrence Crawford, Stephen Fulton, Devin Haney, Shakur Stevenson, Jamel Charlo, Bivol, and the list goes on and on. And apparently it's worked. Not saying this is the only reason Inoue is moving up. I mean, he did start to struggle when it comes to making weight. That had a lot to do with it as well. But a lot of credit goes to Inoue because he wants to go after the number one guy in the division. And I can tell you right now, if Inoue does pull this off, he definitely deserves to be in the top 5 of the pound for pound list. But I don't think it's going to happen. I truly believe Stephen Fulton is going to completely dominate him. And this is going to be the ultimate coming out party for Fulton. Fulton is already top 10 pound for pound, one of the best fighters in the world. And this win over the man that old media is saying is the best fighter in the world over everyone will solidify it. That's all I got for now, guys. I'm on to the next one. All right, now check this out, guys. If you're looking to repair eczema scars, burns and bruises, dark spots and blemishes, fever blisters, diabetic ulcers, this right here is the perfect product for you guys. It's called Elo Diki Face and Body Oil. Athletes and top-ranking boxers, they're also using it after training to reduce swelling, inflammation, and to ease the pain. So get yours today. Go to elodiki.com, like them on Facebook, and follow them on Instagram. Let me tell you guys about Issa Israel Law Firm. It is a full-service legal practice based in Denver, Colorado, an emerging hub for combat sports and high-altitude training. If you're a fighter inside or outside of the ring and you need a law firm you can trust to fight for you, visit thefighterfirm.com or email help@iilawfirm.com. Legal representation is usually limited to plaintiffs or defendants in Colorado, but iFirm can help anyone in the world with trademarking their business name, logos, and U.S. immigration issues. This brother has been my attorney for a while and helped guide me through all kinds of business and civil issues, so make sure you guys go to thefighterfirm.com.